Welcome to today's Pilates session. So today we're going to work on leg strength and it's your choice. We can do this session with a Pilates ball if you've got a Pilates ball. If not, then you can do all of these exercises without the ball and they'll still work really well through your legs. So if you want to pause and go and grab your Pilates ball, you're welcome to. Otherwise, we shall get going. So we're going to put the ball in between your calf muscles. And depending on how inflated your ball is, we're going to just make sure that you can gently hold the ball between your feet. Both feet are nice and stable down onto the mat. And from that position, we're just going to gently take weight forward through the toes, not lifting the heels, but just gently forward through the toes and then back through the heels. Again, not lifting the toes, just gently rocking the weight, transferring forwards and backwards. And we're going to come to that midpoint where you've got equal weight through forefoot and hind foot. And then from there, we're going to just gently take weight left to right. Again, not lifting the foot off the floor, but just feeling that weight transfer left to right. And I'm going to come back to that midpoint. Equal weight through both legs, equal weight through forefoot and hind foot. We're going to keep the knees soft, lengthen up through the legs. You're going to imagine that pelvis like it's a big bowl, marble at the bottom. And you're just going to gently roll that marble forwards, arching through the lower back. And then rolling that marble backwards, lengthening down through the lower back. So feel how far you go in either direction. Arching and hollowing down, rolling that marble forwards, rolling that marble backwards. And we're going to come to a midpoint, halfway between the two, where that marble's at the bottom of the bowl. Keep those kneecaps soft, lengthen all the way through the spine. So you're really thinking of lengthening through the lower back, that mid-back, in between the shoulder blades, through the back of the neck, crown of the head. And we'll just loosen off through the shoulders. We're going to bring those shoulders down and back. So collarbones wide, nice gap ear to shoulder. Just make sure that chin is just gently tucked down, so you've just got a nice kind of orange tucked in between chin and chest. And then from there, we're going to gently engage through the core muscles. We're going to take a breath in as we lift up onto your toes. Breathe out, lower down onto the heels. Good. Breathe in, lift up. Breathe out, lower down. Good. And again. I want you to keep that spine up really nice and tall. So we're not going forward, we're thinking of lengthening through crown of the head. Imagine your head's like a helium balloon and you're just floating straight up and then coming back down again. Breathing out. If you find yourself really wobbly, then just gently find yourself a window ledge or a chair to hold on to. You can just gently touch something to help you keep you balanced, but nice and soft. So you're really working through the feet and the ankles, working through those calf muscles as you lift up through the foot. Breathing in and out. Let's do two more. Breathing in and out. Good. One more. And out. Good. Well done. Okay, from there we're going to pop the ball in between your knees. So just kind of at the top of your knees, lower thighs. So keep those feet a distance apart that you can hold that ball comfortably in between your thighs. Again, equal weight through both feet, forefoot, hind foot. Keep the knees soft, lengthen through the spine, make sure that pelvis is neutral, shoulders down and back. And we're going to imagine that you've got a low stool or chair behind you. And we're going to just really nice and controlled sit your bottom down towards that chair. We're going to squeeze through the bottom, come up nice and tall. So you're going to try and keep your knees over your feet as you sit back, squeeze, come up tall. So you're keeping that ball between your knees. Squeeze through the bottom, come up nice and tall. Breathe in as you lower down, out as you come up nice and tall. In to lower, out to lift. Good, use your arms as that counterbalance, and as you sit back, your arms come in front. Good. into lower, out to lift. Good, just start to feel it in those thighs. Let's do 2 more. Do 1 more. On the last one, we're just going to try and hold it. So if that means holding it here, that's fine. If you can come a little bit lower, come a little bit lower. Going to hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come up tall. Good, well done. Okay, so from here, just hold on to the ball or just bring your hands up. If you haven't got the ball, you can do this all without the ball as well. We're going to bring feet wide, toes pointing out to the side. We're still going to keep the knees nice and soft, pelvis nice and neutral, tall through the spine, drop down through the shoulders, wide through the collarbones, nice gap ear to shoulder. Tuck that chin down gently. From here, we're going to come into a nice wide squat. As you look down, you should see the inside edge of your feet. So if your knees want to come in a bit, you won't see the inside edge of your foot. The knee should cover the outside of the foot, and you look down to the inside edge of the foot. So it's working through those bottom muscles. And again, in that position, you want to be up nice and tall, pelvis neutral. So no bottoms out, leaning forward, coming up nice and tall, keeping the knees wide, making sure they don't want to come in together. Good. From there, we're going to bring the ball out in front, keep the shoulders down, neck nice and long. Going to breathe in, open up, breathe out, back to the centre. Breathe in, open up, breathe out, back to the centre. Keeping the knees wide, back nice and long, tailbone tucked under. And again, it's working through those quads. Good. And through the bottom as well. So you need to keep those knees wide. If they want to start coming in, push the knees out, work through the bottom. Good. And again, you can make that squat kind of as deep. So the deeper you go, the harder you work through those quads. So if you're coming down really deep, it's a lot harder. If you're just staying with a soft knee bend, slightly easier. Work with what feels comfortable for you, so you feel like you're challenging yourself. But you can keep going. I'm going to do 1 more rotation on each side. Good. Last one. Just have a little rest through the hands. Loosen off through the legs for a moment. And then from here, we're going to just work on the calf again. So we're going to stay in this position. We're going to come down into that deep wide squat, knees wide, pelvis neutral, long through the spine. And then from here, what we're going to do is you're going to lift opposite heel, opposite arm up and come back down. And you can do this without the ball, obviously. Coming up, coming back down. Knees stay wide. Good. Working through those calf muscles. Long through the spine, keep the shoulders down, neck nice and long. Good. Keep those knees wide, keep that tailbone tucked under, that nice long spine, lengthening through the crown of the head. Good. Well done. Let's do 1 more on either side. At the end, if you can stay in that position, we're going to just try. You can either just do same again, or if you want to, you can try doing a double heel, double arm lift. Come back down, gently relax off. Just heel toe, those feet in together. Have a loosen off through the legs. Well done. I'm going to pop the ball down. Good, well done. Legs worked, we've ticked that box. So let's come into a roll down. But just to work the legs slightly differently, if you've done my videos before, you know that I normally do a roll down, just feet hip width apart. But we're going to go feet slightly wider than hip width apart if it's available to you. If you'd rather just go feet hip width apart, that's absolutely fine. Up nice and tall. Turn sideways where you tuck that tailbone down, lengthen through the spine, shoulders down. Core switched on, pulling up through the pelvic floor. We're going to tuck chin into neck, and roll one vertebra at a time down through the spine. We're going to try and keep that pelvis up tall for as long as possible, opening up through the spine. Keep that tailbone tucked down, and then just coming down as far as you feel able to go. You can tip through the pelvis, coming into that forward fold. Keep the pelvis, so keep the core switched on, tuck that pelvis down, one vertebra at a time, stacking through. Shoulders down and back, collarbones wide, neck nice and long, keep that chin tucked down. And again, chin into neck, one vertebra at a time, keep that pelvis up tall for as long as possible, control through. And you can't go any further through your back, tip forward through the pelvis, just go as far as you feel comfortable going into that forward fold, and then stacking up, tailbone first. Shoulders down, collarbones wide, length through the back of the neck, keep that chin tucked. Good. Well, last one. Make it your best one yet. Stacking up, tailbone first, and then from the pelvis, one vertebra at a time. Stacking up and through, shoulders down and back, collarbones wide, lengthen through the back of the neck, crown of the head. Good, well done. Okay, so from there we're going to come down onto the mat. So we're going to have feet in line with knees, hips, and when you come down onto your back, shoulders as well. Make sure that the back of the neck is nice and long. You're going to drop those shoulders down away from your ears, so snuggle those shoulder blades underneath the ribcage, lift onto your elbows if you need to. And then we're going to just lift the hips and lower down onto the floor. And we're going to work into the hips a little bit. So again, make this kind of comfortable for you. So if you need to keep a knee bend or modify it slightly, then that's fine, or just stop slightly earlier if you feel like you need a break. So from here, I'm going to give you two options. So a slightly easier option and a slightly more loaded option. So see how you go. But to start off with, we're just going to make sure that the spine's nice and neutral. So you're going to imagine that directly underneath your belly button, between your spine and the mat, you've got a marshmallow. And directly underneath your breastbone, between spine and mat, you've got a 2p coin. We're going to squash down onto them, increasing that pressure onto marshmallow 2p coin. Then we're going to lift up and away as you can just glide your fingertips underneath. That marshmallow's kind of inflates back to its full size. We're going to push back down, lift up and away again. Feel how far you go in each direction. And then we're going to come to that midpoint, so maybe halfway onto that marshmallow. If you know that you tend to arch through that lower back, come down a little bit further. Breastbone down so your spine's in contact with that 2p coin. Keep the shoulders down, collarbones wide. We're going to engage through the core muscles by pulling up through the pelvic floor. And then from there, we're going to float your left leg up to tabletop. So the easier version of this is keeping that leg at tabletop, knee and hip at 90. I'm going to imagine from the knee up towards the ceiling, we've got a nice long paintbrush, and we're going to just paint a little circle on the ceiling. We're going to keep the right leg nice and still and keep the pelvis nice and still. Keep that pressure down on that marshmallow 2p coin. Now if you want to make it slightly harder, just pause for a moment, lengthen through the leg, and we're going to draw that circle with the toes. But make sure the movement's coming from the hip. No cheating by working through the ankle. We're working through the hip. Okay, keeping the pelvis nice and level, keeping that right knee nice and still, pointing up towards the ceiling. We're going to change direction of those circles. Good. Breathe out as you circle away, breathe in as you come back to complete that circle. Good. Core muscles stay switched on. Nice and smooth, nice and controlled. We're going to do one more. We're going to bend that leg back to tabletop if it's long, and then lower the foot to the floor. Just reset through pelvis, make sure you're nice and level equal pressure left to right, shoulders down, core switched on. We're going to float the right leg to tabletop, and you can either circle here, or if you're happy to come into that next level, then make sure you're circling from the hip. No cheating by having those ankles doing the circle. We're going to circle from the hip. Keep equal weight through both sides of the spine. So as you keep this right leg up, you might want to increase that pressure through the right side of the back, but I want you to stay nice and level. Those core muscles will help. Breathe out to circle away, in to circle back. Good. Nice and smooth, nice and controlled. And don't go too big with those circles. We're going to change direction of the circles. Good. If it gets too much and you're doing that long leg, then come back into that half leg with a knee at 90 degrees. And you can work there. If you've had enough, that hip's had enough, then come back down onto the floor. Just make sure you're not arching through the lower back. Keep breathing. Good. 3, 2, and 1. Good. Float to tabletop if it's long, and then lower back down onto the mat. Good, well done. And then from there, we're also going to then just next come into one leg stretch. We're going to come up into level 2. So just make sure that neck's nice and long, shoulders down, lift the hips and come onto that marshmallow 2p coin. We're going to engage through the core muscles. And then from here, so this one's a little bit tricky with the breathing and the movement at the same time. So if in doubt, breathe and move. If you're not doing the same breathing as me, I don't mind, but make sure you're not holding your breath, okay? So from here, breath in. So we breathe out, we're going to float left leg to tabletop, 90 degrees. Breathe in, pause. Breathe out, we're going to lengthen the leg away towards the opposite wall. Breathe in, come back to tabletop. Breathe out to lower. Pause, breathe in. Breathe out, float the right leg to tabletop, into pause. Out to lengthen that leg away. In to come back to tabletop. Breathe out to lower. Pause, breathe in. Breathe out to float to tabletop. Breathe in to pause. Breathe out to lengthen that leg away. Breathe in to come back to tabletop. Breathe out to lower. Pause, breathe in, keep that transition left to right. Nice and neutral through the pelvis. Breathe out to raise to tabletop. In to pause. Out to lengthen. In to come back to tabletop. Out to lower. Shoulders down. Core switched on. Breathe out to tabletop. In to pause. Out to lengthen through. In to come back through to tabletop. Out to lower. Pause, breathe in. Keep the pelvis nice and equal. Breathe out, float to tabletop, into pause, out to lengthen, in to come back to tabletop, out to lower. Good. Pause, breathe in, breathe out, float to tabletop, into pause, out to lengthen, in, coming back to tabletop, out to lower. Good. Pause, breathe in, breathe out, float to tabletop, into pause, out to lengthen, in to come back to tabletop, out to low. Let's do one more on either side. Keep that control, pelvis nice and neutral. That gap between marshmallow and 2p coin, onto 2p coin marshmallow, nice and neutral. Pause, breathe in. Last one. Good. Back to tabletop. Down to the floor. Good, well done. Let's just have a little lengthen through arms and legs. Nice big stretch through. Breathe in, reach fingertips and toes away from one another. Breathe out, feel yourself melt heavy down into the mat. Breathing in, lengthen through. Breathing out, sink into the mat. One more time. Bend one leg up, bend the other leg up. We're going to roll over onto our side. And we're going to come and work through the outside of the glutes and the hip on that upper side of the body. So we want your shins to be in line with the front edge of the mat, and then your knees to be directly in front of your hips. So you've got 90-degree bend here, 90-degree bend at the knee as well. We're going to come down onto our side, and we want to imagine that if someone's looking directly down from above, they'll just see our side profile. So making sure you're not leaning too far backwards or too far forwards. Nice and stacked shoulders, hips, knees and ankles. And from there, we're just going to make sure that we're not sinking our waist down into the mat too much. So I want you to put your hand onto your hip and push that hip away from the rib cage. And you should feel like you just increase that gap to just slide a fingertip or a ribbon in between your waist and the mat. We're going to make sure the spine's nice and long, core switched on. And then from there, we're going to take a breath in. As you breathe out, we're going to lift that whole leg off the bottom leg. Breathe in, come back down. Breathing out to lift. In to come back down. You're keeping the pelvis really still. So imagine you've got a brick wall behind you and you can't twist back. So it's easy to want to cheat and twist back, but actually keep that pelvis stacked. Imagine you've got a glass of water full to the brim, balanced on the outside of that top hip. Breathe out to lift and in to lower. And after a few repetitions, you should start to feel it on the outside of that hip and those muscles that stabilise you when you're standing and help control that hip. Breathe out to lift, in to lower. Let's do 2 more. Good. Last one. Just relax for a moment, reset, make sure you're not sunk down into the mat, so lengthen that top hip away again. So this one really gets into the rotation muscles of that top hip. So go for as long as you can, but if you feel like you need a break, then stop and have a break. Core switched on, breath in. So you breathe out, we're just going to lift that top leg a little way off the bottom leg, and then we're going to go knee to knee, foot to foot. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Good. And it doesn't take long to feel those deep muscles in that hip start to work. We're keeping that little gap in between your waist and the mat. We're making sure we're not rocking backwards. A little twist, knee to knee, foot to foot. Good, it's a bit of a burner. See how long you can keep going. Have a break when you need a break. Good. Last 2 and 1. Good, well done. Take that top leg all the way down to the end of the mat. Rest the foot on the floor. Take your top arm up and over. Have a little stretch through. Good, well done. One more breath in there. Good, well done. And then we're going to come up, we're going to swap sides. So again, remember that you've got 90 degrees at your knee and your hips. So your shins are in line with the front edge of the mat and your knees are directly in front of your hips. You're going to have that person looking down from above, just seeing your side profile. So you're stacked through shoulders, hips, knees and ankles. And from there, that spine's going to be nice and long. We're going to take that top hip away from your ribcage so you can just glide a fingertip or a ribbon in between waist and mat. Core switched on. And from here, we're going to breathe out, lift up, breathe in, lower that leg back down. The whole leg moving as one. Making sure you're not sinking down into the mat with your waist. Good. Breathe out to lift, in to lower. Good. Keep that control. It starts to feel it in the outside of the hip. Just see if you can do a couple more. Good. We will do just 2 more. Good, well done. Pause, have a break. Well done. Just make sure you've still got that little gap in between waist and mat. Take that top hip down away from your waist. Re-engage through those core muscles. We're going to work on rotation. So lifting that knee up just a little way, knee to knee, foot to foot. Breathe in, breathe out. Good. Not a big movement, but really gets into those deep hip rotators, deep in that bottom muscle. Keep that upper body really nice and still. Keep that little gap in between waist and mat. Good. See how long you can keep going. Good, well done. Good, well done. Let's do 3 more. 3, 2, and 1. Well done. Lengthen that top leg down down past the end of the mat. Rest it on the floor. Lift your top arm up and over. Big stretch through. Good. And then we're just going to have a little bit of a stretch out through those legs. I'm going to do it in kneeling, so just gently come up onto all fours. And then what we're going to do is bring your right foot in between your hands. Hands onto knee and try and come up into that high kneeling position. And from here, so really looking after that lower back, so your hip flexors, which come through the front of that hip there, attach at the front of the lower back and come all the way through to the front. So we really need to make sure that we tuck that tailbone down, putting belly button in towards spine. Now you might already start to feel that stretch to the front of the hip. If you can, then you can just hold that there. If you want to just increase that stretch, then push the hip forward. Don't arch through that lower back. So if you're arching and coming forward here, probably not getting the right stretch. It's really looking after that lower back. Push the front of the hip forward. Feel the stretch for the front of the hip. Shoulders down, nice and tall through the spine. Keep breathing. You can either hold this here. If you wanted to do a quad stretch as well and it's available to you, it really might not be, so don't worry if it's not. You can add heel to bottom, but say if your knee's uncomfortable in kneeling or it's just not available to you, stick with that hip flexor stretch. Good, just hold it for a couple more breaths. Good. And then we're just going to take your left arm up towards the ceiling and over to the right. So you're going to open up through the outside of that left leg. Keep that tailbone tucked down, keep the hip pushed forward, belly button pulled in, and you should feel that still maybe a bit through the front, but a bit more through the side of that leg as well. Good, keep breathing, keep those shoulders relaxed, neck nice and long. Good, hold for one more breath. And then we're going to come back up. So from that kneeling position, you need to bring your fingertips to the floor. We're going to lengthen through the front leg, take the sitting bones out behind you. You can keep that right knee slightly soft, so I don't want it locked out completely. You should feel a stretch from the back of the hamstrings. If you want to increase the stretch, you can pull those toes up towards your knee as well. That will increase that stretch all the way through. We're just taking chest towards the thigh to feel that hamstring stretch. Good, hold for one more breath. Good, we're going to come back onto that right foot. We're going to turn to the left. We're going to kneel on that left leg, right foot out to the side. Try and get that outside edge of the foot down towards the floor. Try and take your right inner thigh towards your left inner thigh. So you're really coming up nice and tall. So it's easy to want to kind of lift this hip up and lean to the left, but we're going to try and take that inner thigh down towards the left thigh, come up nice and tall. You should feel a stretch through the inner thigh on this right leg. keeping the outside edge of that foot down towards the floor. Good. Good, let's hold it for one more breath. And then we're going to come and we're going to kneel down again onto all fours, and we're going to bring our left foot in between our hands. We're going to hands onto knee, come up into tall kneeling position. We're going to look after our lower back by tucking, imagine you've got a tail, tuck it between your legs, push the front of the hip forward, and you should start to feel a stretch through the front of that hip. If you can't, you can push into it, but don't arch through the lower back and don't lean forward chest to thigh. Good. Just feeling the hip flexor stretch on the right. Again, if it's available to you, you can add in that quad stretch as well, but if it's not, really don't worry, just focus on that hip flexor, tucking that tailbone under, pulling belly button into spine, pushing the hip forward. Good, keep breathing. Well done. And gently relax off. We're going to take our right fingertips up towards the ceiling and lean over to the left. So in that position, we're opening up through that right side. You're going to keep that tailbone tucked, pull belly button in towards the spine, the hip pushed forward. You should still feel a stretch, maybe a bit through the front, but a bit more through the side of that right leg. Again, keep breathing. Good, one more breath in there, and then gently coming back up and over. And then from there, we're going to lengthen that left leg in front. You have fingertips to floor. Going to take the sitting bones out behind us. Keep a soft knee bend. Take your chest towards your thigh. Feel a stretch through the back of the thigh and that left leg. If you wanted to increase the stretch and bring toes up towards your knee, you can do. Keep the sitting bones lifted, chest to thigh, keeping the back nice and long. Good, and again, keep breathing. Good. One more breath in there, then gently roll back down onto that left foot. We're going to turn to the right. Kneeling tall in the right leg, left leg out to the side, try and get that outside edge of the foot down towards the floor. And again, so making sure that we're going to bring this left inner thigh down towards the right inner thigh, stack the pelvis up tall, lengthen through the spine. You should feel a nice stretch through the adductors on the inner thigh there. Try and keep those little toes down or the outside edge of the foot down towards the mat. It'll want to come up. You'll get a better stretch. That's it, coming up tall. And look after that lower back. Make sure you're not arching through that lower back. Good. One more breath in there. And then gently relax off. And we're done for today. Well done. So you might feel your legs a little bit tomorrow, but hopefully that'll be good. And if you enjoyed it, then come back and revisit it in your own time. Good. Take care. Bye.